Boom! Hey, how are you? I'm Thundercloud. You know, I'm Calls Me James, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. Tonight, it's Chillin Tuesday, the 11th of June. Let's have some fun and linguistic games. What have I got for you tonight? Yes, I've got Singer of the Bush. Yes, it's the early parts of Banjo Paterson's poetry. So, Singer of the Bush here, it's the complete works of Banjo Paterson from 1885 to 1900. And I thought I'd mix it up and have a bit of a change from Henry Lawson because I've done the first book of Henry Lawson's poetry. Now it's time for me to get on to Banjo Paterson's poetry for Chillin Tuesday. Right, Singer of the Bush here was collected and introduced by Rosamund Campbell and Pippa Harvey. It's published by Lansdowne Press in Sydney in 1983. And the first song is the title of the book, I should say, Singer of the Bush. There is waving of grass in the breeze, and a song in the air, and a murmur of myriad bees that do toil everywhere. There is scent in the blossom and bough, and the breath of the spring is as soft as the kiss on a brow, and springtime I sing. There is drought on the land, and the stock tumble down in their tracks will follow, a tottering flock. The scrub cutter's axe, while ever a creature survives, the axes shall swing. We are fighting with fate for their lives, and the combat I sing. Singer of the Bush by Banjo Paterson. The first one I've got for you, El Mahdhi to the Australian troops. This was written in 1885. El Mahdhi, meaning the guided one, a title by Islamic reformers, led a successful rebellion against the Egyptian occupiers in the Sudan, climaxed on the 26th of January 1885 by the capture of Khartoum and the death of General Gordon, a former Governor-General of Sudan, appointed by the Egyptian Khedive. El Mahdhi died suddenly 5 months afterwards. An Australian contingent left for Sydney for the Sudan in early March 1885. But apart from involvement in a minor skirmish, it saw no action and returned to Sydney in June of that year. This is a poem dedicated to that by Banjo Paterson. El Mahdhi to the Australian troops. And wherefore have they come, this warlike band, that o'er the ocean many a weary day have tossed, and now beside Suakim's bay, with faces stern and resolute do stand, walking the desert echoes with the drum. Men of Australia, wherefore have ye come? To keep the puppet Khedive on the throne, to strike a blow for tyranny and wrong, to crush the weak and aid the oppressing strong, regardless of the hapless fella's moan, to force the payment of the Hebrew loan, squeezing the tax like blood from out the stone. And fair Australia, freest of the free, is up in arms against the freeman's fight, and with her mother joined to crush the right, has left her threatened treasures o'er the sea, has left her land of liberty and law, to flesh her maiden sword in this unholy war. Enough! God never blessed such enterprise. England's degenerate generals shall yet rue. Brave Gordon sacrificed, when soon they view the children of 1,000 deserts rise, to drive them forth like sand before the gale. God and the prophet, freedom will prevail. That was published in the Bulletin on the 28th of February, 1885. The next one is a rather long poem. It's called The Bushfire. This poem refers to the continuing struggle by the Irish to obtain home rule from England and describes the attempts of the then Prime Minister William Gladstone to introduce a Home Rule Bill. The Cornstalk Kid was probably Canada, whose government put forward some suggestions for dealing with the Irish problem. The term cornstalk was at that time was used for all colonials. The Bushfire, an allegory. 'Twas on the famous Empire Run, whose sun does never set, whose grass and water, so they say, have never failed them yet. They carry many million sheep through seasons dry and wet. They call the homestead Albion House, and then along with that there's Welshman's Gully, Scotchman's Hill, and Paddymelon Flat, and all these places are renowned for making jumbucks fat. And the out paddocks, holy frosts, there wouldn't be no sense for me to try and tell you half. They really are immense. A man might ride for days and weeks and never strike a fence. But still for years they never had been known a sheep to lose. Old Billy Gladstone managed it, and you can bet your shoes he'd scores of supers under him and droves of jackaroos. Old Billy had an eagle eye and kept his wits about. If any chaps got trespassing, he quickly cleared them out. And coves that used to work across, they hated him, no doubt. But he still managed it in style until the times got dry and Billy gave the supers word to see and mind their eye. If any paddocks gets afire, I'll know the reason why. Now, on this point, old Bill was sure, because for many a year, whenever times got dry at all, as sure as you are here, the Paddymelon Flat got burnt, which Bill thought rather queer. He sent his smartest supers there to try and keep things right. No use. The grass was always dry. They'd go to sleep at night, and when they woke, they'd go and find the whole concern alight. One morning, it was very hot. The sun rose in a haze. Old Bill was cutting down some trees, one of his little ways. A black boy came hot foot to say the flat was in a blaze. Old Bill, he swears a fearful oath and lets the Tommy fall. Says he, I'll take this business up and fix it once for all. And this goes on, the cursed run will send us to the wall. So he withdrew his trespass suits, he'd only one with Dutchy's boss. In prosecution's criminal, he entered nolle pros. But these were neither here nor there, they'd always meant a loss. And off to Paddymelon Flat he started double quick, dray loads of men with lots of grog, lest heat should make them sick. And all the strangers came around to see him do the trick. And there, the fire was flaming bright, for miles and miles it spread, and many a sheep and horse and cow were numbered with the dead. The super came to meet old Bill, and this is what he said. No use to try to beat it out, 'twill dry you up like toast. I've done as much a man can do, although I never boast. I think you'd better chuck it up and let the jumbuck roast. Then Bill said just 2 words, you're sacked, and pitches off his coat and wrenches down a blue gum bough and clears his manly throat and into it like threshing wheat. Right sturdily he smote, and beat the blazing grass until his shirt was dripping wet, and all the people watched him there to see what luck he'd get. Gosh, don't he make the cinders fly, and golly, don't he sweat. But though they worked the Trojans all, the fire still went ahead. As far as you could see around, the very skies were red. Sometimes the flames would start afresh, just where they thought it dead. His men too quarrelled mongst themselves, and some coves gave it best, and some said, light a fire in front and burn from east to west. But Bill, he kept slogging in and never took no rest. Then, through the crowd, a cornstalk kid came riding to the spot. Says he to Bill, now take a spell, you're looking very hot. And if you only listen why, I'll tell you what is what. These coves has set your grass on fire, there ain't no mortal doubt. I've seen 'em riding here and there and poking round about. It ain't no use your working here until you finds them out. See, yonder, where you beat the fire, it's blazing up again, and fires are starting right and left on Tipperary Plain. Beating them out is useless quite unless heaven sends the rain. Then Bill, he turns upon the boy, oh, hold your tongue, you pup, but a cinder blew across the creek. Well, Bill stopped for a sup and fired the Albion paddocks too. It was a bitter cup. Old Bill's heart was broke at last. He had to chuck it up. The moral. The run is England's empire great. The fire is the distress that burns the stock they represent. Prosperity, you'll guess. And the blue gum bough is the home rule bill that's making such a mess. And Island Green, of course, I mean, by Paddy Mellon Flat. All men can see the fire, of course, spreads on at such a bat. But who are setting it alight? And I cannot tell you that. But this, I think, all men will see and hold it very true. Don't quarrel with effects until the cause is brought to view. What is the cause? That cornstalk boy, he seemed to think he knew. The Bulletin, the 12th of June, 1886. The next one is a dream of the Melbourne Cup. Yeah, Banjo Paterson really was into horses. A subtitle, A Long Way After Gordon, means that the poet's estimation of the verses are not equal of Adam Lindsay Gordon's racing poetry. So this was when Banjo was quite young. It's one of his early poems. So it's not like one of his best, obviously. He was underestimating himself and the potential fantastic poet that he became. A Dream of the Melbourne Cup, A Dream of the Melbourne Cup by Banjo Paterson. Bring me a quart of colonial beer and some doughy damper to make good cheer. I must make a heavy dinner, heavily dine and heavily sup, of indigestible things fall up. Next month they run the Melbourne Cup and I have to dream the winner. Stoke it in, boys, the half-cooked hand, the rich rag out and the charming cham. I've got to mix my liquor. Give me a gander's gaunt hind leg, hard and tough as a wooden peg, and I'll grease it down with a hard-boiled egg. 'Twill make me dream the quicker. Now I am full of fearful feed. Now I may dream a race indeed in my restless, troubled slumber, while the nightmares race through my heated brain, and their devil's riders spur amain. The tip for the cup will reward my pain, and I'll spot the winning number. Thousands and thousands and thousands more like sands on the white Pacific shore, the crowding people cluster. For every more it's the story old. While races are bought and backers are sold, drawn by the greed of the gain of gold, in their thousands still they muster. And the bookies' cries grow fierce and hot. I'll lay the cup, the double, if not 5 monkeys, little John, sir. Here's 5's bar 1, I lay. And so they shout through the livelong day and stick to the game that is sure to pay, while fools put money on sir. And now in my dream I seem to go and bet with a book that I seem to know, a Hebrew money lender. 1,000,000 to 5 is the price I get, not bad, but before I book the bet, the horse's name I clean forget, his number and even gender. Now, for the start, and here they come, as the hoof strokes roar like a mighty drum, beat by a hand unsteady. They come like a rushing, roaring flood. Hurrah for the speed of the chest of blood, for Acme is making the pace so good. There are some of them done already. But round the back she begins to tire. A mighty shout goes up, "Crossfire!" The magpie jacket's leading. And Crossfire challenge fierce and bold, and the lead she'll have and the lead she'll hold, but at length gives way to the black and gold, which away to the front is speeding. Carry them on and keep it up. A flying race is the Melbourne Cup. You must race and stay to win it. And an old commotion, Victoria's pride, now takes the lead with his ranking stride, and a mighty roar goes far and wide. There's only commotion in it. But one draws out from the beaten ruck, and up on the rails by a piece of luck he comes in a style that's clever. It's Trident, hurrah for Hales. Go at 'em now while their courage fails. Trident for New South Wales, the blue and white forever. Under the whip with ears flat back, under the whip though the sinews crack, no sign of the base white feather. Stick to it now for your breeding's sake. Stick to it now though your hearts should break, while the yells and roars make the grandstand shake. They come down the straight together. Trident slowly forges ahead, the fierce whip's cut and the spurs are red. The pace is undiminished. Now for the panics that never fail, but many a backer's face grows pale as old commotion swings his tail and swerves, and the cup is finished. And now in my dream it all comes back. I bet my coin on the Sydney crack. 1,000,000 I've won, no question. Give me my money, you hook-nosed dog. Give me my money, you book-making dog. But he disappears in a kind of fog, and I wake with the indigestion. Interesting. A long poem all the same. The next one I've got here, the Mylora Elephant. Now, I don't have any notes about this at all. I just know it's 3 pages. And it actually changes meter halfway through. It goes from these long lines, so couplets, to short couplets. And then at the end it goes back to one quatrain verse of long couplets. By the winding Wallandilly, where the weeping willows weep, and the shepherd with his billy half awake and half asleep folds his fleecy flocks that linger homewards in the setting sun, lived my hero Jim the Ringer, cocky on Mylora Run. Jimmy loved the super's daughter, Miss Amelia, Jane McGrath. Long and earnestly he sought her, but he feared her stern papa. And Amelia loved him truly, but the course of love, if true, never yet ran smooth or duly as it ought, I think, to do. Watching with his slow attention, once Jim saw McGrath, the boss, riding out by Jim's selection, looking for a station os. that was running in the ranges with a mob of outlaws wild. Old McGrath, good day, exchanges. Off goes Jim to see his child. Says the old man's after stagger, which he'll find is no light job. And tomorrow I will wager he will try and yard the mob. Will you come with me tomorrow? I will let the parson know. And forever joy or sorrow, he will join us here below. I will bring my nag so speedy, Crazy Jane and Tambourine. One more kiss, don't think I'm greedy. Goodbye, lass, before I'm seen. Just one more, God bless you, dearie. Don't forget to meet me here. Life without you is but weary. Once more, goodbye, my dear. And this is where Banjo Paterson changes the metre into shorter lines. The daylight shines on figures twain that ride across Mylora plain, laughing and talking, Jim and Jane, steadily dancing, there's lots of time. Didn't we slip the old man prime? I knew he'd tackle that brown-necked mob. I reckon he'll find it too big a job. They've beaten us all. I've had to try, but the Warrigal devils seem to fly. That Sambo's a real good bit of stuff, no doubt, but not quite good enough. He'll have to gallop that lifelong day to come and cut, to race and stay. I hope he yards 'em, 'twill do him good. To see us going, I don't think would. To turn in the road and fair and square, they meet the old man standing there. What's up? Why, running away, of course, says Jim, emboldened. The old man turned, with his eye with wild excitement burned. I've raced all day through the scorching heat after old Bow Neck. Now I'm beat. But over that range, I think you'll find the Bow Neck mob all run stone blind. Will you go and leave the mob behind? Which will you do? Take the girl away or ride like a white man should today? And yard old Bow Neck, go or stay? Says Jim, I can't throw this away. We can bolt some other day, of course. Amelia Jane, get off that horse. Up you get, old man. Whoop, hello. Here goes to put old Bow Neck through. Two distant specks on the mountainside, two stock whips echoing far and wide. Amelia Jane sat down and cried. Sakes, Amelia, what's up now? Sleeting old Sambo, too, I vow. And him dead beat, where have you been? Bolted with Jim, what do you mean? Met the old man with Sambo licked from running old Brown Neck. Well, I'm kicked. Run 'em till Sambo nearly dropped. Why did Jim do when you were stopped? Did you bolt from further across the plain? Jim made you get off your Crazy Jane. And father got on away again. The two of them went home in the ranges grim. Good boy, Jimmy. Well done, Jim. They're sure to get them now, of course. That Tambourine is a spanking horse. And Crazy Jane is good as gold. And Jim, they say, rides pretty bold. Now, like your father, but very fair. Jim will have to follow the mare. It never was yet in your father's hide to best my Jim on the mountainside. Jim can rally and Jim can ride. But here again, Amelia cried. The sound of a whip comes faint and far, a rattle of hooves, and here they are, in all their tameless pride. The fleet wild horses snout with fear and wheel and break as the yard draws near. Now Jim the ringer, ride. Wheel 'em, who back there, whoa. And foam flakes fly like driven snow as under the whip the horses go down the mountainside. And Jim, hands down and teeth firm set on a horse that never has failed him yet, is after them down the range. Well ridden, they wheel no back, and long and loud the stockwhicks crack. Their flying course they change. Steadily does it, let Sambo go, open those slip rails down below, smart or you'll be too late. They follow old Sambo up, look out, wheel that black horse, give Sam a clout, therein make fast the gate. The mobbers safely in the yard, the old man mounts delighted, prize no eyes had he, but for his prize Jim catches poor Amelia's eyes. Will you come with me after all I've done? Here's crazy Jane is fit to run. For a prince's life now, don't say no, slip on a while, the old man's down below. Will you come, my girl? I will, you bet. We'll manage this here elopement yet. By the winding Wallandilly stands the hut of Ringer Jim, and his loving little Mealy make a perfect god of him. He has stalwart sons and daughters, I think, before he's done. There'll be numerous 640s taken on Mylora Run. And that was first published in the Bulletin on the 25th of December, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, in 1886. The next one, a sad tale, only a jockey. The prologue. Richard Benison, the jockey aged 14, while riding William Tell in his training, was thrown and killed. The horse is luckily uninjured. That was written in the Melbourne Wire. Out in the grey chill of the morning light, out on the track where the nightshades still lurk, ere the first gleam of the sun's God's returning light, round come the race horses early at work, reefing and pulling and racing so ready, reefing and pulling and racing so readily. Close sit the jockey boys holding them hard. Steady the stallion there, canter him steadily. Don't let him gallop so much as a yard. Fiercely he fights while the others run wide of him. Reefs at the bit that would hold him in thrall. Plunges and bucks till the boy that's astride of him goes to the ground with a terrible fall. Stop him there, block him there, drive him in carefully, lead him about till he's quiet and cool. Sound as a bell, though he's blowing himself fearfully. Now let us pick up this poor little fool. Stunned. Oh, by Jove, I'm afraid it's a case with him. Ride for the doctor, keep bathing his head. Send for a cart to go down to our place with him. No use, one long sigh. The little chap's dead. Only a jockey boy, foul-mouthed and bad, you see, ignorant, heathenish, gone to his rest, parsonal, presbyter, Pharisee, Sadducee. What did you do for him? Bad was the best. Negroes and foreigners all have a claim on you. Yearly you send your well-advertised hoard. But the poor jockey boy, shame on you, shame on you. Feed ye my little ones, what said the Lord? Him ye held less than the outer barbarian, left him to die in his ignorant sin. Have you no principles, humanitarian? Have you no precept? Go gather them in. Knew he God's name in his brutal profanity? That name was an oath out of many but one. What did he get from our famed Christianity? Where has his soul, if he had any, gone? 14 years old. And what was he taught of it? What did he know of God's infinite grace? Draw the dark curtain of shame o'er the thought of it. Draw the shroud over the jockey boy's face. That was published in the Bulletin on the 26th of February, 1887. The next one is called Over the Range. Little bush maiden, wondering-eyed, playing alone in the creek bed dry, in the small green flat on every side, walled in by the moonbeam ranges high. Tell us the tale of your lonely life midst the grey, great forests that know no change. I never have left my home, she said. I have never been over the Moonbeam Range. Father and mother are both long dead, and I live with Granny in yon wee place. Where are your father and mother, we said. She puzzled a while with a thoughtful face. Then a light came into the shy brown eye, and she smiled, for she thought the question strange. On a thing so certain when people die, they go to the country over the range. And what is this country like, my lass? There are blossoming trees and pretty flowers, and shining creeks where the golden grass is freshly sweet from the summer showers. They never need work, nor want, nor weep, no troubles can come their hearts to estrange. Some summer night I shall fall asleep and wake in the country over the range. Child, ye are wise in your simple trust, for the wisest man knows no more than you. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust, our views by a range are bounded too. But we know that God hath this gift in store, that when we come to the final change, we shall meet with our loved ones gone before to the beautiful country over the range. And that was published in the Sydney Mail on the 26th of February 1887. And yeah, the Moonbeam Range, that's sort of just down the hill. Well, it's a bit further than down the hill. You've got to go down past Armadale, Uralla, and then it's down the hill to Tenterfield. Yeah, not Tamworth, that's where it's seen. On the way up from Tamworth up to Uralla. It's the Moonbeam Range. The Deficit Demon. I'll read you the blurb. This poem refers to New South Wales' financial deficit, which the previous premiers, Sir George Dibbs and Sir Patrick Jennings, had failed to reduce. At that time that Paterson wrote the poem, Sir Henry Parkes had been elected premier and was an advocate of a free trade policy to improve matters. And so this was the beginning of the Federation of Australia when Henry Parkes was talking about this free trade between the states. Unfortunately, he died before Federation happened, and he never got to see an Australia without states. All right, so The Deficit Demon, a political ballad. It was the lunatic poet escaped from the local asylum. Loudly he twanged on his banjo and sang with his voice like a sawmill, while, as with fervour, he sang, there was born of the shuddering wildwood, born on the breath of the poet, a flavour of rum and of onions. He sang of the deficit demon that dwelt in the Treasury Mountains, how it was small in his youth and a champion was sent to destroy it. Dibbs, he was called, and he boasted, soon I will wipe out the monster. But while he was boasting and bragging, the monster grew larger and larger. One day, as Dibbs bragged of his prowess in daylight, the deficit met him, settled his hash in one act and made him to all men a byword, sent him a raving ex-premier to dwell in the shades of oblivion. and the people put forward a champion known as Sir Patrick the Portly, as in the midnight the tomcat, who seeketh his love on the housetop, lifteth his voice up in song and is struck by the fast whizzing brickbat, drops to the ground in a swoon and glides to the silent hereafter. So fell Sir Patrick the Portly at the stroke of the deficit demon. There were people amazed, and they called for the champion of champions, known as Sir Henry the Fishfag, unequalled in vilification. He is the man, the people said, to wipe out the deficit monster. If nothing else fetches him through, he can at least talk its head off. So he sharpened his lance of free trade and practised in loud-mouthed abusing. Poodle-head, craven and mole-eyes were things that he purported to call it. He went to the fight full of valour and all men awaiting the issue, though they know not his armour nor weapons, excepting his power of abusing. Loud sang the lunatic poet his songs of the champions of valour, until he was sighted and captured by fleeting foot keepers pursuing, to whom he remarked with a smile as they ran him off back to the madhouse, "If you want to back, Parks, I'm your man. But here's a cool 3-1 on the deficit." The Bulletin, March the 5th, 1887. And that was the Mylora Elopement, not the Mylora Elephant, as I said at the beginning. My mistake. Yeah. No elephants in Mylora. Right, what do we got next for you? Well, before I go on, how about, if you're liking this, why don't you give it a thumbs up or one of those hearty things, please. Do it now, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Waiting. Heart, like. Yep, good. Thank you. And subscribe. Yeah, do that as well. Subscribe. See that button underneath, just down there? Subscribe. Yep, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Yeah, because it all helps the metrics and it helps get Australian poetry out to other people. Okay, that last one, the Mylora Elephant, the Mylora Elopement. Yeah, well, it seemed like it was going to be a bit of a sad story, but the ending was not sad at all. They got together, they had lots of kids, and off he went and caught the horse, and he didn't forget about it. So yeah, what a happy story, happy ending that one had. This one, not so well, only a jockey, tells the story of Richard Benison, a jockey aged 14, riding William Tell, the name of the horse, in his training, was thrown and killed. The horse is luckily uninjured, and that was written in the Melbourne Wire. Luckily uninjured. Out on the grey, cheerless chill of the morning light, out on the track where the night shades still lurk, ere the first gleam of the sun god's returning light, round come the racehorses early at work, reefing and pulling and racing so readily. Close sit the jockey boys, holding them hard. Steady the stallion there, canter him steadily. Don't let him gallop so much as a yard. Fiercely he fights while the others run wide of him, reefs at the bit that would hold him in thrall, plunges and bucks till the boy that's astride of him goes to the ground with a terrible fall. Stop him there, block him there, drive him in carefully, lead him about till he's quiet and cool, sound as a bell though he's blown himself fearfully. Now let us pick up this poor little fool. Stunned. Oh, by Jove, I'm afraid it's a case with him. Ride for the doctor, keep bathing his head, send for a cart to go down to our place with him. No use. One long sigh, and the little chap's dead. Only a jockey boy, foul-mouthed and bad, you see, ignorant, heathenish, gone to his rest. Parson or presbyter, Pharisee, Sadducee, what did you do for him? Bad was the best. Negroes and foreigners all have a claim on you. Yearly you send your well-advertised hoard. But the poor jockey boy, shame on you, feed ye my little ones. What said the Lord? Him ye held less than the outer barbarian, left him to die in his ignorant sin. Have you no principles, humanitarian? Have you no precept? Go gather them in. Knew he God's name in his brutal profanity? That name was an oath out of many but one. What did he get from our famed Christianity? Where has his soul, if he had any, gone? 14 years old, and what has he taught of it? What did he know of God's infinite grace? Draw the dark curtain of shame o'er the thought of it. Draw the shroud over the jockey boy's face. And that was published in the Bulletin on the 26th of February, 1887. The next one's interesting because it's called Over the Range, and it's about the Moonby Range, which is just down the hill here from Guyra. You go down past Armidale, Uralla, and then you go down the Moonby Range to Tamworth. Over the Range. Little bush maiden, wondering-eyed, playing alone in the creek bed dry, in the small green flat on every side, walled in by the Moonby Ranges high. Tell us the tale of your lonely life, mid the great grey forests that know no change. I never have left my home, she said. I never have been over the Moonby Range. Father and mother are both long dead, and I live with Granny in yon wee place. Where are your father and mother? We said. She puzzled a while with thoughtful face. Then a light came into the shy brown eye, and she smiled, for she thought the question strange. On a thing so certain. When people die, they go to the country over the range. And what is this country like, my lass? There are blossoming trees and pretty flowers, and shining creeks where the golden grass is sweet and fresh from the summer showers. They never need work, nor want, nor weep. No troubles can come their hearts to estrange. Some summer night I shall fall asleep and wake in the country over the range. Child, you are wise in your simple trust, for the wisest man knows no more than you. Ashes to ashes, and dust to dust, our views by the range are bounded too. But we know that God hath this gift in store, that when we come to the final change, we shall meet with our beloved ones gone before, to the beautiful country over the range. The Sydney Mail, 26th of February, 1887, was published the same day as the Only a Jockey was published in the Bulletin. What's rather interesting about this particular one is that for Banjo to write about that, he would have had to have travelled up over the Moonby Range to know the place. Because back in the day, if you didn't travel, you wouldn't know about a lot of places. And of course, if you know a little bit about Banjo's history, he did travel quite extensively. He went all the way up to Winton, etc., and overseas in the Boer War and other places as well. The next one is called The Deficit Demon, a political ballad. And the prologue to this, The Deficit Demon, this poem this poem refers to New South Wales' financial deficit, which the previous premiers, Sir George Dibbs and Sir Patrick Jennings, had failed to reduce, which comment here, we all know that governments don't reduce deficits, debt. At the time that Paterson wrote the poem, Sir Henry Parkes had been elected premier, and he advocated a free trade policy to improve matters. In fact, Henry Parkes advocated for the Federation of Australia and the abolition of states. Unfortunately, Henry Parkes died before Federation. So what happened, the founding fathers of Federation, because they were all men, decided, hey, let's entrench our power as premiers and politicians in states. And so that gave rise to our 3 tiers of governance in Australia. And wouldn't it be great if we could get rid of one of those tiers, like the states? Save billions of dollars every year. Political comment. Now let's get on to the deficit demon. A political ballad. It was the lunatic poet escaped from the local asylum. Loudly he twanged on his banjo and sang with his voice like a sawmill. While with fervour he sang, there was born over the shuddering wildwood, born on the breath of the poet, a flavour of rum and onions. He sang of the deficit demon that dwelt in the Treasury Mountains, how it was small in his youth and a champion was sent to destroy it. Dibbs, he was called, and he boasted, "Soon I will wipe out the monster." But while he was boasting and bragging, the monster grew larger and larger. One day, as Dibbs bragged of his prowess in daylight, the deficit met him, settled his hash in one act and made him, to all men, a byword. Sent him, a raving ex-premier, to dwell in the shades of oblivion. And the people put forward a champion known as Sir Patrick the Portly. As in the midnight the tomcat who seeketh his love on the housetop lineth his voice up in song and is struck by the fast whizzing brickbat, drops to the ground in a swoon and glides to the silent hereafter, so fell Sir Patrick the Portly at the stroke of the deficit demon. There were the people amazed, and they called for the champion of champions, known as Sir Henry the Fish Fag, unequalled in vilification. He is the man, said the people, to wipe out the deficit monster. If nothing else fetches him through, he can at least talk its head off. So he sharpened his lance of free trade, and he practised in loudmouth abusing. Poodlehead, craven, and mole eyes were things that he purposed to call it. He went to the fight full of valour, and all men are waiting the issue, though they know not his armour nor weapons, excepting his power of abusing. Loud sang the lunatic poet his song of the champion's valour, until he was sighted and captured by free-footed keepers pursuing, to whom he remarked with a smile as they ran him off back to the madhouse, "If you want to back Parkes, I'm your man. Here's a cool 3-1 on the deficit." Published in the Bulletin, 5th of March, 1887. Here we go, got a joke for you. So there was a politician, and he went up to the pearly, he died, and he went up to the pearly gates, and he's met by St. Peter. And St. Peter says, "Well, you've got this choice of heaven here," and he looked at heaven and there was all fire and whatever, "or you've got hell over there." And the politician turned around behind him and he saw flowers and nature and people having a good time. and enjoying themselves and dancing, and there was abundance. And then he looked back at heaven, and it was all fire and people were screaming. And then St. Peter said to him, well, which one do you vote for? He looked at heaven, saw the fire. He looked at hell, saw what looked like paradise. He said, oh, I'll choose to go to hell. Sure thing, said St. Peter. The politician turned around, and then he looked at hell, and it was now all flame and fires and horrible. And he looked back at heaven, and it was all beautiful and lovely. And he said, my gosh, what's happened? And St. Peter looked at him and said, well, that was the campaign, and you voted. Lost. Another tragedy. He ought to be home, said the old man. Without, there's something amiss. He only went to the 2 mile. He ought to be back by this. He would ride the reckless filly. He would have his wilful way. And here, he's not back at sundown. And what will his mother say? He was always his mother's idol ever since his father died. And there isn't a horse on the station that he isn't game to ride. But that reckless mare is vicious, and if once she gets away, he hasn't the strength to hold her. And what will his mother say? The old man walked to the slip rail and peered up the darkening track and looked and longed for the rider that would never more come back. And the mother came and clutched him with sudden spasmodic fright. What has become of my Willie? Why isn't he home tonight? Away in the gloomy ranges, at the foot of an iron bark, the bonny winsome laddie was lying, stiff and stark. From the reckless mare had smashed him against a leaning limb, and his comely face was battered, and his merry eyes were dim. And the thoroughbred chestnut filly, the saddle beneath her flanks, was away like fire through the ranges to join the wild mob's ranks. And a broken-hearted woman and an old man, worn and grey, were searching all night in the ranges till the sunrise brought the day. And the mother kept feebly calling with a hope that would not die, Willie, where are you, Willie? But how can the dead reply? And hope died out with daylight, and the darkness brought despair. God pity the stricken mother, and answer the widow's prayer. Though far and wide they sought him, they found not where he fell. For the rangers held him precious, and guarded their treasures well. The wattle blooms above him, and the bluebells blow close by, and the brown bees buzz the secret, and the wild birds sing reply. But the mother pined and faded and cried and took no rest, and rode each day to the ranges on a hopeless weary quest. Seeking her loved one ever, she faded and pined away, but with the strength of her great affection she still sought every day. I know that sooner or later I shall find my boy, she said, but she came not home one evening, and they found her lying dead. And stamped on the poor pale features, as the spirit homeward passed, was an angel's smile of gladness. She had found the boy at last. That was published in the Sydney Mail on the 19th of March, 1887, lost by Banjo Paterson. The next one is called Our Mat by Banjo Paterson. It came from the prison this morning, close, twisted, neat-lettered and flat. It lies in the hall doorway adorning, a very good style of mat. Prison made, how the spirit is moven, as we think of its story of dread, what wiles of the wicked are woven and spun in its intricate thread. The letters are new, neat, and knobby, suggesting a masterly hand. Was it Sykes who half murdered the Bobby that put the D on the and? Some banker found guilty of latches? It's always called latches, you know. Had Holt any hand in those H's? Did Bertrand illumine that O? That T has a look of the gallows, that A's a triangle, I guess. Was it one of the Mount Rennie fellows who twisted the strands of the S? Was it made by some highly connected who is doing his spell on his head, or some wretched woman detected in stealing her children some bread? Does it speak of a bitter repentance for the crime that so easily came, of the wearisome length of the sentence, of the sin and the sorrow and the shame? A mat, I should call it a sermon on sin to all sinners addressed. It would take a keen judge to determine whether writer or reader is best. Though the doorway be hard as a paved stone, I rather would use it than that. I'd as soon wipe my boots on a gravestone as I would on that Darlinghurst mat. The Bulletin, the 2nd of April, 1887. He really didn't like that mat, did he? He was a bit sus of it, having come from a prison. The mat, I mean. Oh, the next one's called The Larrikin's Lament. Actually, it's called Uncle Bill, subtitle, The Larrikin's Lament. It's illustrated. Got an illustration by Norman Lindsay here. It was published in the Bulletin on the 9th of June, 1888. And I'll just show you the illustration because it's pretty cool. There we go. Okay. Uncle Bill, The Larrikin's Lament. My Uncle Bill, how doth my heart with anguish thrill. For he, our chief, our Robin Hood, has gone to jail for stealing wood. With tears and sobs my voice I raise to celebrate my uncle's praise with all my strength and all my skill. I'll sing the song of Uncle Bill. Convivial to the last degree, an open-hearted sportsman he, did midnight howls our slumbers rob, we said it's uncle on the job. When sounds of fight rang sharply out, then Bill was bound to be about. The foremost figure in the scrap, a terror to the local trap. To drink or fight or maim or kill came all alike to Uncle Bill. And when he faced the music's squeak at Central Court before the beak, how carefully we sought our job to pay his fine of 40 bob. Recall the happy days of yore when Uncle Bill went forth the war, when all the street with strife was filled, and both the traps got nearly killed, when the lone cabman on the stand was stoushed by Bill's unaided hand. And William mounted filled with rum and drove the cab to Kingdom Come. Remember too that famous fray when the Blackreds who hold their sway o'er Surrey hills and Shepherd's Bush descended on the liver push, who cheered both parties long and loud, who heaved blue metal at the crowd and sooled his bulldog fighting bet to bite haphazard at all she met. And when the mob were lodged in jail, who telegraphed to me for bail? And here, I think, he showed his sense, who calmly turned Queen's evidence. Enough, I now must end my song, my needless anguish. Why prolong? From what I've said, you'll own, I'm sure, that Uncle Bill was pretty pure. So rowdies, all your glasses fill and drink it standing, Uncle Bill. Good old Uncle Bill. That was published in the Bulletin on the 9th of June, 1888. And what's today? The 11th of June. Yes, Chillin Tuesday. Oh, the next one. Old Pardon, the Son of Repreive. This is a story about a racehorse named Repreive, who was the son of a racehorse named Pardon. You never heard tell of the story? Well, now I can hardly believe. Never heard of the honour and glory of Pardon, the son of Repreive? And maybe you're only a Johnny and don't know a horse from a hoe. Well, don't get angry, my sonny. But really, a young'un should know. They bred him out back on the Never. His mother was Mameluke breed. To the front and then stay there was ever the root of the Mameluke creed. He seemed to inherit their wiry, strong frames and their pluck to receive. As hard as a flint and as fiery was Pardon, the son of Repreive. We ran him at many a meeting, at crossing and gully and town, and nothing could give him a beating, at least when our money was down. For weight wouldn't stop him, nor distance, nor odds though the others were fast. He'd race with a dogged persistence and wear them all down at the last. At the Turon, the Yattenden filly led by lengths at the 1.5 miles, and we all began to look silly while her crowd was starting to laugh. But the old horse came faster and faster. His pluck told its tale, and his strength he gained on her, caught her and passed her, and won it hands down by a length. And then we swooped down on Menindee to run for the Premier's Cup. Oh, that's a sweet township, a shindy. To them is board, lodging and sup. Eye-openers they are, and their system is never to suffer defeat. It's win, tie or wrangle to beat 'em. You must lose 'em or else it's dead heat. We strolled down the township and found 'em at drinking and gaming and play. If sorrows they had 'em, why they drowned 'em, and betting was soon underway. Their horses were good uns and fit uns. There was plenty of cash in the town. They backed their own horses like Britons, and Lord, how we rattled it down. With gladness we thought of the morrow. We counted our wages with glee. A simile homely to borrow. There was plenty of milk in our tea. You see, we were green and we never had even thought of foul play, though we might have well known that the clever division would put us away. Experience docet, they tell us, at least I've frequently heard, by dosing or stuffing those fellows were up to each move on the board. They got to his stall. It is sinful to think what such villains would do. And they gave him a regular skinful of barley, green barley to chew. He munched it all night and we found him next morning as full as a hog. The girths wouldn't nearly meet round him. He looked like an overfed frog. We saw we were done like a dinner. The odds were 1,000 to 1 against Pardon turning up winner. 'Twas cruel to ask him to run. We got to the course with our troubles. A crestfallen couple were we, and we heard the books calling the doubles, a roar like the surf of the sea. And over the tumult and louder rang, "Any price, Pardon, away," says Jimmy. "The children of Judah are out on the warpath today." 3 miles in 3 heats. Ah, my sonny, the horses in those days were stout. They had to run well to win money. I don't see such horses about. 6 furlong vermin that scamper, half-mile with their featherweight up. They wouldn't earn much of their damper in a race like the President's Cup. The first heat was soon set a-going, the dancer went off to the front. The Don on his quarters was showing with Pardon right out of the hunt. He rolled and he weltered and wallowed, you'd kick your hat faster, I bet. They finished all bunch and he followed, all lathered and dripping with sweat. But troubles came thicker upon us, for while we were rubbing him dry, the stewards came over to warn us. We hear you are running a bye. If Pardon don't spear like tarnation and win the next heat if he can, he'll earn a disqualification. Just think that over now, my man. Our money all gone and our credit. Our horse couldn't gallop a yard. And then people thought that we did it. It really was terribly hard. We were objects of mirth and derision to folk on the lawn and the stand, and the yells of the clever division of any price pardon were grand. We still had a chance for the money. 2 heats still remained to be run. If both fell to us, why, my sonny, the clever division were done. And Pardon was better, we reckoned. His sickness was passing away, so he went to the post for the second and principal heat of the day. They're off and away with a rattle like dogs from the leashes let slip, and right at the back of the battle he followed them under the whip. They gained 10 good lengths on him quickly. He dropped right away from the pack. I tell you it made me feel sickly to see the blue jacket fall back. Our very last hope had departed. We thought the old fellow was done, when all of a sudden he started to go like a shot from a gun. His chances seemed slight to embolden our hearts, but with teeth firmly set, we thought now or never the old 'un may reckon with some of 'em yet. Then loud rose the war cry for pardon. He swept like the wind down the dip and over the rise by the garden. The jockey was done with the whip. The field were at 6s and 7s. The pace at the first had been fast, and hope seemed to drop from the heavens, for Pardon was coming at last. And how did he come? It was splendid. He gained on them yards every bound, stretching out like a greyhound extended, his girth laid right down to the ground, on a shimmer of silk in the cedars, as into the running they wheeled, and out flashed the whips on the leaders, for Pardon had collared the field. Then right through the ruck he came sailing. I knew that the battle was won. The son of haphazard was falling. The Yattenden filly was done. He cut down the Don and the dancer. He raced clean away from the mare. He's in front. Catch him now if you can, sir. And up went my hat in the air. Then loud rose the lawn and the garden. Rose offers of 10 to 1 on. Who'll bet on the field? I back Pardon. No use. All the money was gone. He came for a third heat light-hearted, jumping and dancing about. The others were done ere they started, crestfallen and tired and worn out. He won it and ran it much faster than even the first, I believe. Oh, he was the daddy, the master was Pardon, the son of Repreive. He showed him the method to travel. The boy sat as still as a stone. They never could see him for gravel. He came in hard-held and alone. But he's old and his eyes are grown hollow, like me with my thatch of the snow. When he dies, then I hope I may follow and go where the racehorses go. I don't want no harping or singing. Such things with my style don't agree. Where the hooves of the horses are ringing, there's music sufficient for me. And surely the thoroughbred horses will rise up again and begin fresh races on faraway courses, and perhaps they might let me slip in. It would look rather well, the race card on, 'mongst cherubs and seraphs and things, Angel Harrison's black gelding Pardon, blue halo, white body and wings. And if they have racing hereafter, and who is to say they will not, when the cheers and the shouting and laughter proclaim that the battle grows hot. As they come down the race course a-steering, he'll rush to the front, I believe, and he'll hear the great multitude cheering, for pardon, the Son of Repreive. And that was published in the Bulletin on the 22nd of December, 1888. Hey, what have we got coming up here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame? Yes, 2 Sundays away, on the 23rd of June, we've got Ash Grunwald coming here. Yes, he's one of Australia's best musicians and bluesmen. He's one of the hardest working musicians about, just touring here and there, playing gigs everywhere. He's like the modern day Slim Dusty. And tickets are really selling out quite quickly. So you need to get your tickets now. And the link is in the description underneath. So get your tickets to Ash Grunwald now, so you don't want to miss out, because it will be the concert of the year in Guyra, for sure. What else have we got coming up? Well, coming up in August, we've got the Australian Poetry Slam heat here, as well as some workshops in July and August, poetry slam workshops. So you can learn how to write poetry slam and perform it. So if you've never written poetry before, if you've written poetry, or if you just want to be a bit better writer and learn how to deliver poetry, perform it, well, check out the upcoming events at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame and the workshops and the Australian Poetry Slam heat in the middle of August. Also, in September, we've got the band Rue Friend, or actually the, what are they called? Brisbane Flood Report coming the 7th of September. It'll be a cabaret night, and we'll have dinner and a lovely show of jazz music and that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for more information about that as well. Okay, other things happening here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. If you've got nothing to do on a Saturday morning, why not come up to Guyra? Because Guyra has got some wonderful attractions to see. It's got the Guyra Saturday morning market here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. And while you're here, you can check out the Red Door Gallery, the Poets Hall of Fame, the Australian Poetry Library, the theatre here, and you can even go across the road and check out Burgess Garage Car Museum. There's plenty to do in Guyra, and it's always cold, so make sure you bring warm clothes. That's quite important, because we don't want you to catch a cold. No. Yeah, we don't. All right, we've got another poem for you here. Right, the next one I've got for you is called The Corner Man. The Corner Man. During the 1880s, minstrel shows were very popular. The Corner Man was the end singer in a group of minstrels. There were 2 corner men. One generally played the bones and the other the tambourine, and they were the clowns of the company. Now, this comes with a language warning, because it's got the nigger word in it. It's got the word nigger in it. So, yeah, warning, eh? You get offended. It was written in 1888. You get over yourself. I dreamed a dream at the midnight deep, when fancies come and go, to vex a man in his soothing sleep with thoughts of awful woe. I dreamed that I was the corner man of a nigger minstrel show. I cracked my jokes and the building rang with laughter loud and long. I hushed the house, I softly sang an old plantation song, a tale of the wicked slavery days of cruelty and wrong. A small boy sat on the foremost seat, a mirthful youngster he beat the time with his restless feet to each new melody. And he picked me out as the brightest star of the black fraternity. "Oh, father," he said, "what would we do if the corner man should die? I never saw such a man, did you? He makes the people cry. And then, when he likes, he makes them laugh," the old man made reply. "We, each of us, fill a very small space on the great creation's plan. If a man don't keep his lead in the race, there's plenty more that can. The world can very soon fill the place of even a corner man. I woke with a jump, rejoiced to find myself at home in bed, and I framed a moral in my mind from the words the old man said. The world will jog along just the same when the corner men are dead. The Bulletin, 26th of January, 1889. Oh, here we go. This one's interesting. It's the Sausage Gate. The Sausage Candidate, a tale of the elections. This was written in February 1889. A general election for the Parliament of New South Wales was in progress, and this was published in the Bulletin on the 9th of February 1889. The Sausage Candidate, a tale of elections. Our fathers brave men were and strong, and whisky was their daily liquor. They used to move the world along in better style than now, and quicker. Elections then were sport, you bet. A trifle rough, there's no denying. When two opposing factions met, the skin and hair were always flying. When cabbage trees could still be worn without the question, who's your hatter? There dawned a bright election morn upon the town of Parramatta. A man called Jones was all the go, the people's friend, the poor's protector. A long, gaunt, 6-foot slab of woe, he sought to charm the green elector. Now, Jones had one time been trustee for his small niece, and he, the villain, betrayed his trust most shamefully and robbed the child of every shilling. He used to keep accounts, they say, to save himself in case of trouble, whatever cash he paid away. He always used to charge it double. He'd buy the child a cotton gown, too coarse and rough to dress a cat in, and then he'd go and put it down and charge the price of silk or satin. He gave her once a little treat, an outing down the harbour sunny, and Lord, the bill for bread and meat, you'd think they all had eaten money. But Jones exposed the course he took. By carelessness, such men are ninnies. He went and entered in his book 2 pounds of sausages, 2 guineas? Now, this leaked out, and folk got riled and said that Jones, he didn't oughter. But what cared Jones? He only smiled, abuse ran off his back like water. And so he faced the world content. His little niece, he never paid her. And then he stood for Parliament. Of course he was a rank free trader. His wealth was great. Success appeared to smile propitious on his banner. But Providence, it inferred, in this most unexpected manner. A person, call him Brown for short, who knew the story of this stealer, went calmly down the town and brought 2 pounds of sausages from a dealer. And then he got a long bamboo and tied the sausage lightly to it. Says he, this is the thing to do, and I am just the man to do it. When Jones comes out to make his speech, I won't a clapper be nor hisser, but with this long bamboo I'll reach and poke the sausage in his kisser. I'll bring the wretch to scorn and shame unless those damned police are nigh. As sure as Brown's my glorious name, I'll knock that candidate quite high. The speech comes on beneath a stand, the people push and surge and eddy, but Brown waits calmly close at hand, with all his apparatus ready. And while the speaker loudly cries, Of ages all, this is the boss age. Brown hits him square between the eyes, exclaiming, "What's the price of sausage?" He aimed the victuals in his face as though he thought poor Jones a glutton, and Jones was covered with disgrace. Disgrace and shame and beef and mutton. His cause was lost, a hopeless wreck. He crept off from the hooting throng. Protection proudly ruled the deck. Here ends the sausage and the song. Published in the Bulletin, 9th of February, 1989. Here we go. This is interesting. This one's called Who is Catter? Anyhow, not Bob Catter. Mr. Henry Edward Catter of Mossvale, son-in-law of the late William Forster, has been appointed a member of the New South Wales Legislative Council, daily paper. Why, oh why, was Catter lifted from darkness where he drifted, all unknown, and raised to honour, side by side with Dick O'Connor? In the council, free from row, who is Catter anyhow? Did he bid our armies rally, like the recent Billy Daly? Did he lend a premier money like no libels here, my sonny? Was he like John Davies found, very useful underground? Not at all. His claim to glory rests on quite another story. All obscured he might have tarried, but he managed to get married, and to cut the matter shorter, married William Forster's daughter. So, when Henry Edward Catter goes to answer his creator, will the angel at the wicket say on reading Catter's ticket, "Enter, for you're no impostor, son-in-law of Billy Forster"? Published in the Bulletin on the 2nd of March, 1889. And yeah, that's interesting how it's actually been edited by the Bulletin, that line where he's, did he lend a premier money like, and it hasn't actually got the name of the premier. And then in brackets it says, no libels here, my sonny, editor of the Ed B. So the Bulletin editor did that, put that little line in there. Now, the last one I've got for you tonight, in re a gentleman one. When an attorney is called before the full court to answer for any alleged misconduct, it is not usual to publish his name until he's found guilty. Until then, the matter appears in the papers as in regards a gentleman, one of the attorneys of the Supreme Court, or more shortly, in re a gentleman one. We see it each day in the paper and know there's mischief in store, that some unprofessional caper has landed a shark on the shore. We know there'll be plenty of trouble before they get through with the fun, because he's been coming the double. Our on clients has gentleman one. Alas for the gallant attorney, intent upon cutting a dash, sets out on life's perilous journey with rather more cunning than cash. And fortunate first as inviting, he struts his brief hour in the sun. But lo, on the wall is the writing of Nemesis, gentleman one. For soon he runs short of the dollars, he fears he must go to the wall. So Peter's trust money he collars to pay off his creditor Paul, then robs right and left, for he goes it in earnest when once he's begun. De sensus averni, he knows it. It's easy for gentleman one. The crash comes as sure as the seasons, he loses his coin in a mine, or booming in land, or for reasons connected with women and wine, or maybe the cards or the horses, a share of the damage have done, no matter. The end of the course is the same, a gentleman one. He struggles a while to keep going, to stave off detection and shame. But creditors clamorous growing, ere long to put an end to the game. At length the poor soldier of Satan his course to a finish is run, and just to think of Windia waiting to deal with the gentleman one. And some face it boldly and brazen, the shame and the utter disgrace, while others more sensitive hasten their names and their deeds to efface. They snap the frail threads which the Furies and the fates have so cruelly spun. May the great final judge and his juries have mercy on gentleman one. And that was published in the Bulletin on the 30th of March, 1889. All right, well, that's it for Chillin' Tuesday on the 11th of June. So check out the events. Make sure you get your tickets really soon to Ash Grunwald, otherwise you'll miss out. And we'll see you tomorrow night for Wednesday Words, or next week for Chillin' Tuesday, here from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame in Guyra and the Seahorse Medicine Cafe. Keeping it real. I'm Thundercloud, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. Everybody knows Mum calls me James. Boom. See you later.